Another week is in the books, and that means another podcast here at the Next Woman Up, episode 10, in fact, of the Winsidr podcast. I'm Michael Waterloo, and joining me as always, my co-host, Melissa Treebwasser. Melissa, this week, TCU went 2-0. We know whenever, like last week, we said, how am I going to be feeling whenever we record? It is Monday, February 16th. I have to ask, how are you feeling?
I booked my tickets to Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament is how I'm feeling. I was a little bit nervous about how the draw was going to look. I never got off the bandwagon, obviously, because I'm a real fan, but I was definitely getting a little bit nervous, heading into Waco and watching that team play the way they did at Baylor against a red-hot Baylor Bears team, and then seeing the way they responded after that big win when you definitely could have had a letdown and grind it out and have a come-from-behind victory over a really, really tough West Virginia team at home to extend their longest home winning streak in the nation to 40 games. Pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. Still have some concerns. Still know this is a team that can be beat. But watching, I won't spoil my stat line of the week, but just watching that very special performance in Waco just really got me excited for this team when it plays at its best.
It was a lights out game there for that player that I'm sure you're referring to. And we hope to have a lights out show here for you today, too. It was a loaded week. Before we get to the action, we do have a special guest this episode. It is fresh off of what? A 30-point game, 28-point game, something like that. She was just in her bag and she was on our show. None other than Clara Strack from the University of Kentucky. You're going to want to stick around and listen to that interview that we had with her. But first, we got to look at the week that was. And Melissa, it was a packed schedule as it always seems to be right now during the middle of conference play. As we get ready for conference tournaments starting up in just a few weeks, we have Texas versus Tennessee, TCU Baylor, Michigan State rematch, UNC Duke. They play each other again March 1st. LSU South Carolina, Maryland, Ohio State. And I know I'm even missing some, but Melissa, we'll start with you. Which game really stood out to you the most this week?
Well, I mean, I want to start with the game that we just referenced a little bit there and just kind of touch on that TCU Baylor game. When you look at what the Big 12 race is going to be to the finish line, I asked Talia Scott, friend of the show, Talia Scott, and we also talked to TCU, to Mark Campbell and Olivia Miles about this after the win over West Virginia, if the Big 12 is getting enough respect nationally. And we've kind of talked about this too. And how good the Big Ten is this year, how deep that conference is, how good the SEC is this year. And then I think the ACC just has a little bit more intrinsic value when it comes to national reporters. And so the Big 12 gets overlooked. And to see those two teams I know it wasn't what Nikki Collin wanted, but I have questions about what her game plan was against Olivia Miles. And then, of course, how her team executed that. It wasn't great, but it was great for me. It wasn't great for Baylor, but I loved what Talia said, and Olivia actually referenced the conversation too, and just saying that every Big 12 team plays so differently. There's so much different defensive styles and offensive styles in this league. There are some really great players, but there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of game planning that you have to prepare so differently night in and night out than Olivia said that she did in the ACC, and that Talia Scott, who played in the SEC, she said it was significantly different. And so I'm obviously a Big 12 homer. I'm obviously a Big 12 fan because that's the school I went to, and that's the school I cover most closely. But I do think, and we'll get to this potentially here at the end of the show or next week, I do think that there are some teams that deserve a little bit more respect than they're getting when it comes to, as we start to see bracketology really come into its final form. And I thought that national showcase game between two really good teams, even though TCU ultimately came away with a big win, you just saw the talent that was on the floor, big shot making, great college basketball environment. And having Jess Sims there with ESPN, Jess Sims, one of my all-time favorites, and getting to take a picture and talk to her after the game was really cool for me. But yeah, I mean, that was a great game, a great showcase for the sport. And I think an opportunity for TCU to reassert itself as, a top 16 team, a potential Sweet 16 Elite Eight type program.
And we saw them being unveiled as such on, I believe that was Saturday night before the big South Carolina LSU game. And yeah, you talk about those different conferences and the teams play differently throughout there. If you remember back our conversation with Gianna Neekins a few weeks ago, she said, she went from the Pac-12 to the Big 10 to the Big 12, and or Big 12 to Big 10 and just kind of said like, hey, every single team they play so differently and they're so good. So totally agree with that. I'm going to take us to that aforementioned game, the LSU South Carolina game, and I'll tell you what, that started at 8:45. My ass was tired. I was so tired watching that. I'm like, can we just make this an 8 o'clock? First supposed to be 8:30, then it went to 8:45. Okay, but that game was everything and more. Lived up to the hype. South Carolina eventually extended its winning streak versus LSU, I would to believe, to 18 straight now. It was the Malaysia full Wally. We thought it was going to be a revenge game. You could see her extra amped up, but it was the Johnson and Johnson show. Raven Johnson, Tessa Johnson really stood out there for South Carolina, being those 3-point threats. Really huge for them because they really need that, as we've seen them in the past be a team that ruled to rely on the Camilla Cardosas, Aaliyah Boston's inside presences. So it was really big, but we saw at the end of the game just how important free throw shooting is. Flau'jae Johnson had a chance to put LSU ahead and missed two free throws and end up having a chance to tie it after that from three. Wasn't able to do it. South Carolina still reigns supreme there, showing why they're one of the best teams in the country. They have a really tough matchup on the slate this week against Ole Miss, and we will be talking about that just a little bit more. So that's one game that stood out to me. Another one very quickly that had to do with free throws too. That's kind of the theme of the show, I guess, is Maryland versus Ohio State. Maryland with a huge come from behind effort yesterday on Sunday, whenever we are recording this, to take down Ohio State, a big upset loss for them. The one thing that stood out to me about the Buckeyes is not only was Jelani Cambridge a kind of a one person show in the second half, especially, but Maryland was able to have 17 second chance points on 22 offensive rebounds. It was just very out of character for that Ohio State team, especially with Kylie Kitts. Her and Elsa Lamela just combined for 8 rebounds, and that's it. So for a Maryland team, if you remember a couple weeks ago, they lost 4 straight games, and I said, I'm out on them. I don't really think they're going to be able to do anything. And I still have my concerns about them, but they really showed up yesterday on the road in Ohio State for the really big upset whenever Ohio State was poised to be a number 3 seed. So Melissa, we'll pass it back to you. Is there another game that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I on the fly made an executive decision to change. I was going to talk about Texas, Tennessee. I think that is obviously was a huge game, a gutty Texas win. We've talked about both these teams. Kind of Texas has just kind of hit the grinder part of their schedule. Tennessee, we thought maybe had checked out on Kim Caldwell a little bit, and they really battled against the Longhorns in a disappointing loss. But I want to flip on the fly because I want to talk about Georgia and Vanderbilt. And you talked about free throws, and that's kind of what triggered it for me. Michaela
Mm,
Blakes is getting the James Harden treatment, and I don't want to say that she doesn't deserve it. She is an unbelievable player. She's a tough guard. But I will say, I think there's a real issue in women's basketball officiating. And the officials not catching up to the way that these athletes have developed. And I still see, I saw this when I was coaching flag football too, is sometimes there's still a little bit of that kind of trigger in your brain that says they shouldn't be able to do this, so it must be a foul, or it must be a travel, or it must be whatever else. And I think that we're not seeing the officiating catching up to the athleticism of these athletes at this point. And I think we saw a lot of that. I was so impressed with Georgia. I mean, Georgia's a team that's pretty solidly in the tournament field. I think in the latest ESPN bracketology, they're like a 7 seed or something. But I was so impressed with their game plan, their ability to execute that game plan, which was we're not going to give Michaela Blake's open looks. We're going to make her fight for everything. We're going to make her teammates beat her. But more so, the mental fortitude as every whistle seemingly went against them down the stretch in the second half and late in that fourth quarter to continue to get themselves up off the mat. I think at one point, Vandy pulled ahead by 2 or 4 points, and Georgia just kept fighting back, kept fighting back, kept fighting back. Ugly as sin game. I mean, just
hmm
a physical mess of a game, a lot like what TCU West Virginia was Sunday night. But that Georgia team is going to be a tough out. There are plenty of teams that are going to be better than them and more skilled than them. But if they are coached that well and they have that type of mental fortitude and they have some real strength inside, that's a team you do not want to see in your bracket come Selection Sunday for sure.
No, I completely agree. I'm kind of glad that you pivoted in that direction because I felt like with everything else that happened this week, that upset by Georgia was kind of overlooked.
Yeah.
We know the Texas Tennessee game. It was when you talk about officiating, watching the juxtaposition between the way that game was called versus South Carolina and LSU
Yeah.
game. They let them hoop where Texas Tennessee was just foul, foul, foul constantly. So yeah, I'm really glad you went in that position. UNC Duke was a really, really good game. It was a battle of the winning streaks on the line there, and we saw Duke again doing Duke things, end up
Yeah.
pulling out a big game for Ashlyn Jackson as she continues to well, we both moved her down our board a little bit last time. I saw ESPN had her as a first rounder. I was a little surprised at that, but
Yeah.
that's where I had her at in my initial one. So hey, no hate there, all love. Big game again for them March 1st as they play against each other again. And I got to be honest with everybody right now. I am laboring through this podcast right now. I am not feeling the best, so we may keep a little short today. You may hear a little spacey thoughts, but that is okay. We do it because we love this show. We love doing it. And we also love the Audie Crook stat line of the week. So we're going to go right to that next segment. And Melissa, you tease at the very beginning of the show. Who gets your Audie Crook stat line of the week this week?
Listen, I've given Olivia Miles the Audie Cook stat line of the week
Mhm.
before when she had the four consecutive triple doubles and she earned it. But that 40 burger that she dropped, I mean, against Baylor in a game that TCU had to have on, major network television, a prime time standalone game. The best players show up best in the biggest moments, and the lights were certainly not too bright for Olivia Miles down in Waco. Just an all-time type performance from a truly elite player that I feel like has not necessarily been as brightly in the spotlight this year as in years past. Her three-point shooting's fallen off a little bit. She's playing at TCU, not Notre Dame. That's not going to get as much love nationally just because the uniform's a little bit different. But to go 10 for 20 on three pointers. And when I tell you, like, the first 16 attempts, like, I don't know that anyone had even a hand anywhere near her face. So they were pretty wide open. But, I think she was 2 for 8 or 2 for 6 in the first quarter. And then in that third quarter, 7 for 10, couldn't miss. The sidestep three is something that, like, dreams or nightmares are made of, depending on what side you're cheering for. 23 points in the third, outscored Baylor in that quarter by herself. Her and Marta Suarez. Marta had an amazing game, too. She had 27 points. They alone combined to tie Baylor's complete scoring output. Just one of those games in front of a couple of WNBA GMs, I will say as well, where you remember that this was the person that was widely considered to be the number 2 overall pick, had she come out last year, and is going to be almost unequivocally a top 3 pick this year. So a vintage performance. Came back, had a great game against West Virginia as well, and leading TCU to that win. And I said a week or two ago that the Big 12 championship, Baylor was trying to remind people that it had gone through them for, a couple of decades. And TCU has gone in and taken that mantle back and now controls its own destiny. And a lot of that has to do with the way that Olivia Miles has played.
Truly does. There's a reason that I had her number 2 on my big board, and I kind of haven't moved her from there just because I do feel like she is probably the safest player in the entire draft. And sometimes we look at safe and we think that's boring, and that's okay. But she showed that she is not boring.
She is not boring.
She went 10 of 20 from behind the arc. That is a career high in both marks for her. So she deserves that. She's one of my favorite players to watch. And it's very, very fitting that she gets the Audie Crook stat line of the week the same time that Chelsea Gray wins the Unraveled
Yeah.
one-on-one tournament. Because if you're looking for a pro comp, look no further than the point god.
Can I just make a comment there?
Yeah.
Anybody that was watching that we're not an Unrivaled show, but anybody that was watching that show and said that watching the gray on gray crime was not good basketball has never played one on one. Is that like, yes, it got real sloppy, and those two women were keeled over that third game and really taking their time, but they were so exhausted. And two of the most elite competitors in all of sports, gender excluded, just going at it like that with so much on the line, with so much respect between them. what an incredible show by the point guard, but Alicia Gray, man, those two gave everything they had, and that's what I love about sports. Like the Winter Olympics are going on, and when you see people just doing it for the love of the game and throwing themselves everything that they have, there were a lot of people saying that wasn't good basketball, and to those people I say, easy to say from your couch, friends, easy to say from your couch.
Well said. The Unraveled One-on-One tournament is one of my favorite things every year. It's in the second year of it, but I cannot wait for next year already. It is just people who are going out there doing the damn thing when a lot of these stars won't even do the slam dunk contest because they're afraid they'll get
Oh,
embarrassed.
and
So we'll just throw
NBA
that out
All-Star
there.
Weekend was so bad. Like it was
It,
so boring. And so that,
yep.
yeah, it's neither here nor there, but here we are.
Yeah. Save it, losers. Unraveled has it done. They know what they're doing. And somebody else who does it for the love of the game is my winner of the Audie Croak stat line of the week, and that is Kiyomi McMiller out of Penn State. She is somebody I was looking forward to all season, coming over from Rutgers. I don't know if you've ever, like, I might be the only person who does this, but I'm not a big YouTuber, okay? Like, get off my lawn, that's fine. But sometimes I'll just go and watch some highlights. And Kiyomi McMiller, watch her highlights from last year, her freshman year at Rutgers. Her handles are out of this world. So I was very, very excited her transferring to Penn State. Don't really know about like the move from one school to the other, what led to it, but excited for her to have another opportunity. And she absolutely balled out this week against Northwestern, friend of the program, Grace Sullivan, as we know. 32 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 steals in 39 minutes.
Jeez.
But the thing about McMiller, that's 4 straight 30-point games. So she's somebody who isn't getting enough attention nationally, somebody I wanted to call out because she is just wonderful to watch.
That's awesome. I love that. There have been a lot of wonderful to watch things here recently in women's basketball, but there have been coaches are wilded out, Michael. And I heard you told me that you have a little game for us to play today based on some of the insane press conferences that we have heard. And we say all this like knowing that on the men's side, Jerome Tang just got fired for cause, quote unquote, because of things he said at a press conference. So I can't wait to play this game and see how different these things are treated because I'm going to imagine a lot of these things are coming from teams that are winning. Whereas Jerome Tang was speaking from a position of not having the success expected of his program.
Yes, yes. So I texted you the other day and I said, "Hey, I have an idea. Have you heard anything about what the SEC coaches are saying?" And you said, "No, I haven't heard." And I said, "Okay, good. Do not pay attention to it. Do not seek it out because I want to play a game. And it is a game that I want to call, is it SEC or is it just from me?" Because some of these are real quotes from coaches over the past week. Some of these are just made up from me. And Melissa, I'm going to read through them and you're going to tell me if it's a real quote from a coach
Okay.
or if I made it up. All right. So we will start with the first one. "We have no heart. We're not tough. It's probably the softest team that I've had in years."
So I told you there was one that I had heard because people were asking me about it at the TCU game on Thursday night, and that was our friend Vic Schaefer, who is probably the only person that can get away with saying that seriously and have like not have his players not negatively respond whatsoever. Vic, man, like there's some coaches can kill him with kindness and some can kill him with fire. Vic's going to take his jacket off and kill you with fire. I think he's wrong. I don't think that team is soft whatsoever. I saw what they did to Baylor. I've watched enough Texas basketball, but it sounds like he needed to light a little bit of a fire under their rear ends. And a very gritty, gutty win against Tennessee shows that maybe it worked.
Yes, that was Vic Schaefer. That was after their, I believe, 16-point loss to Vanderbilt. So that's what he came out and he said. And it really, really surprised me to see that. But different coaches like to fire up their team. As you saw, it worked against Tennessee. We'll move on to the second quote here. "It's a team game. It doesn't come down to one possession, but the only thing a player can singularly control is what they do at the free throw line. And tonight, we felt at that up and down the lineup."
Ooh, see that like you kind of hinted at this with your games of the week here and how much emphasis was on free throws. It sounds way too composed and put together to come out from an angry post game press conference. But I'm gonna falter on this one, but I'm gonna say that's an SEC coach.
That is a just from me quote.
Oh, see,
I
I
wrote that
far too
myself.
composed, but really good coach speak. I mean, you have a future at that. If you want to be coach press conference deliverer, Michael, I think you're signed up for it.
I've heard enough of them. I had an idea how they went. So I thought I might be able to throw you off there since we discussed the
Yeah.
free throw
Well
line, and
done.
I'm
Well
glad it
done.
worked. Thank you. We'll move on to the third one. We do have six of these. Third one. They outshot us. They out hustled us. They outplayed us. My kid's youth team plays with more effort than we had tonight.
Okay. Oh gosh. I'm gonna give that a Michael quote. Am I gonna be wrong two times in a row? Again, like it just feels like it's too synchronous. Like it makes too much sense.
That is a Michael quote.
Yes,
I wrote
good.
that myself. Good call. Good call. Yes.
Oh, I've got a good shot now. We've got three left, and I know I've got two coaches left, so I've got a good shot to get these both right.
I didn't necessarily say there's three and three.
Oh,
There's just six total.
dang it. Okay, I was feeling so
Just
confident.
six total. Yes. So the next one, number four, we just had a lot of quitting us tonight, and that's been consistent with our team. We're not comfortable, and when things don't go our way, I just have a team that'll quit on you.
That's definitely a coach. Not a good coach, not a happy coach, but a coach that's gonna that sounds like something Kim Caldwell would say, or who was the other coach that's always mouth or Kim Mulkey. Feels like Kim Caldwell or Kim Mulkey here.
You are right. That was Kim Caldwell.
Mm.
She said that after Tennessee's loss against South Carolina when they lost by 43 points.
Okay, fair. I'm gonna give Kim that
Fair.
one. Then I'm gonna give her
Yeah.
that one.
And remember, that was after a 15-point loss to Mississippi State, 30-point loss against UConn. They beat Georgia by 5. Then they lost South Carolina by 43. But they came out and they beat Missouri by 45 and then only lost to Texas by 2.
Yeah, and
So
battled.
again, you look to fire your team up whenever you can.
Kim Caldwell better be careful though, because if they don't win some games here down the stretch, her and Jerome Tang are gonna have to share a beer or something over commiserating about press conferences getting them in trouble.
In Tennessee, they have Ole Miss. We're going to talk about Ole Miss week coming up later, but they have Ole Miss, Oklahoma, LSU, and Vanderbilt
Oh
still
God.
on the schedule. The only
Yeah.
good winnable, well, the only good game that they can maybe rest a little bit, but you don't want to overlook anybody, of course. In SEC play is Texas A&M.
Yeah.
But
They're
besides
bad.
that, it is a rough schedule ahead of them. Okay, we got two more here. If you're looking for someone to blame, blame me. That can be your narrative for your story. It starts and ends with me. Blame me for not having us prepared.
Ooh. Man, I'll tell you, that's a coach I want to play for. That's willing to take all the blame. And the narrative and the 4 year story thing makes me feel like that came from a coach.
That was all me. I wrote that myself.
No.
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Man, I'm not good at
Yes.
this game, Michael. I'm very bad at it.
Or I'm just convincing. Either way, either way. And the last one here is you got to stop saying it's a benching. This is a game and it's basketball. You make substitutions, so it's not benching.
Ooh. So again, like the way that it's constructed makes me feel like you wrote it, but I could definitely see this being said with a little bit of sass at the lectern, directed at a reporter's question that they didn't like. I'm gonna say coach. I'm gonna guess coach for the final one that you did do a 3-3 split.
I did do 3-3. That
Okay.
is a coach. That was Coach Vic Schaefer again
Oh, that was
after the
thick.
Vanderbilt game. Yes, a reporter asked him why he benched Rory Harmon, and he said, "You guys, you're sports media writers, you got to know better. This is not a benching; it's a substitution." Bree came in, she played hard. We kept her in. It's a substitution, not a benching. So
Yeah.
yes, that was a 3-3 split, and I'm pretty sure you went 3-3 on that. So you know
That's
what?
about my coaching record all time right there, probably. So I was batted 100 or batted 1,000 in the press conferences, though. I never had a press conference. I was never that good of a coach.
Well, that was a lot of fun. If coaches give us more sound bites, we may bring that back. And Melissa, so far I put you on the spot with that. I put you on the spot with guessy stat lines. It's hard being put on the spot. So kudos to you.
I
Feel
love
free to
it.
put me on the spot sometime if you ever want
I'll,
to
I'll
flip
come
that
up.
and
I'll
reverse
come
it.
up with something. Yeah, I'll come up with something ahead of maybe we'll do something fun with bracketology.
Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be
Yeah,
fun. But yeah, I think I have a maybe a future as a coach post game press conference writer or
yeah,
NBA 2K. You need somebody to write those fake ass quotes you
perfect,
have on there. Come
perfect.
after me.
That's the
That's
one.
okay. Yeah, and I feel like I have a future in that. And Melissa, somebody else who has a future in her field of choice is Clara Strack from the University of Kentucky. She joined us and she was just a delight to speak to because she's just a great person as well as a great player.
Yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation with Clara. Once again, our like history of you come on the show, you ball out the week that your episode airs is continuing, as Claire just had a monster game this weekend. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been really fun. The best part of doing this, other than getting to chat with you about something we both love so much, is getting to get to know these players. And she was lovely to talk to, as you said. And just, I mean, she's a junior this year. She is going to be on every preseason watch list going into next year, and that loaded 2027 draft. She definitely has a chance to be a top five pick. Her skill set combined with her size, her passing ability, her basketball IQ, she's one of the best in the game right now, and I'm looking forward to y'all getting to hear from her.
Same here. She had 28 points, 11 rebounds against Ole Miss, but I would argue her best performance didn't come on the court, but came on the podcast instead. Let's toss it over to Clara.
All right, everybody, joining us now on the next woman up is Kentucky's do-it-all center, Clara Strack. Claire's averaging a double-double this season, while also the top five in blocks per game with nearly three, an elite company in a couple other categories, averaging nearly 2 assists and 1.5 steals per game as well. Now in her junior season, Claire is building off her March Madness breakout from a season ago, establishing herself as one of the truly elite bigs in the sport, bolstered by a couple of midseason watch list nominations, including the Wooden Award, and I believe as of earlier today, Naismith Defensive Player of the Year midseason watch list. So just a couple of things to get you through the grind of January and conference play. Claire, we sort of say thank you so much for taking time to join us today.
Yeah, of course.
So we always like to start at the beginning of these interviews, and for you, that means growing up playing basketball in New York. You
Mhm.
had a chance earlier this season to go back home and play at the University of Buffalo.
Mhm.
It had a pretty legendary performance in your homecoming: 27 points, 12 rebounds. Your Hamburg High's all-time leading scorer, and I believe the first ever Division I player to come out of your high school.
Mhm.
And you had a pretty special experience with over 100 fans coming out to your meet and greet before your game. What does having that kind of legacy and leaving that kind of legacy mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot. I mean, growing up playing there, like you said, there wasn't a lot before me, but I think like with my generation of people, there was a lot of people around the area who are playing Division I now. But I think going back there and just seeing the support that people back there have for me, knowing like they watch the games, they're like supporting me, it just gives you something else to like play for, I think, like all the young girls.
Did you have any special moments or experiences with those fans?
A little bit. I think just like the programs that I grew up playing with all coming out and bringing like the current girls who are playing like to support. I think that's really special and cool.
And we know too, your biggest fans are your parents, and they talk a lot about the sacrifices that you made, especially in high school as you pursue basketball. Claire, when did you know this was something that you could do at a high level in college and beyond?
Yeah, I would say probably like towards the end of my freshman year of high school. It's kind of when I started getting attention from colleges. So I think that's really what showed me like, no, I can make something of this, like I can do this. So I think that just motivated me to do more and work harder with everything that I'm doing. I always wanted to be the best at everything I did. So I think I did work hard young, but once I started seeing that is when I really like put it into another gear and really tried to focus on it more.
So one thing we try to ask whenever people talk about, hey, this is when I started getting noticed from college. Do you remember who the first college was that reached out to you with
Yeah,
interest?
it was University of Buffalo. Um, so yeah, that was cool.
I'm sure being the hometown hero and continuing to be the hometown hero was an important draw, but you got an opportunity to go to Virginia Tech and then an opportunity to follow your coach, Kenny Brooks down to, or Coach Brooks down to Lexington as well. How much did that existing relationship and kind of the familiarity with his system and his familiarity with your game allow you to hit the ground running and continue your development this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's super smooth transitions. I think my relationship with him is really special. That's a main reason why I picked Virginia Tech in the first place, and then continued to follow him here. I think because the relationships that he builds, knowing that he has so much confidence in me and like everything I do on the court, because like that's what we work on together all year round. I think that's something that's really cool and good to have in the back of my mind.
And he has a confidence of you too as being a facilitator. As you've dished out multiple assists in more than 65% of your games under Coach Brooks. We saw a nice little fun fact that you trained as a guard growing up before your growth spurt. So, Claire, how do you think that guard-oriented skills kind of help you facilitate for the Wildcats today?
Yeah, I think that's really beneficial. I mean, I always had coaches from a young age growing up that were like, everyone has to be able to dribble, everyone has to be able to do this. So I always did do all of that. All my like personal trainers and stuff, it was never just post work. It was never like that. So I did a lot of guard stuff. And then in high school, I kind of played more of a guard because we had another girl who was our post player. So I just did whatever they wanted me to do.
I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I too tried to train as a guard in middle school and high school. And my coaches said, "Get down there on the block where you belong." So I'm glad to see the game has evolved a little
Yeah.
bit. And since my years when we were still shooting in peach baskets, uh, when folks talk about your game, a lot of what they bring up is your versatility and your high IQ. How have you kind of developed your analytical sense of basketball alongside your obvious physical gifts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just comes from like the same thing. Like my coaches growing up, I think I've always had very knowledgeable coaches throughout. They explain things like that. I like to watch basketball, obviously. So I think just like learning the game as I go, like learning through every coach that I've had, I've never had someone who doesn't like take the time to explain like why things are happening. Coach Brooks does the same thing. He just wants you to learn everything. Like he doesn't want you to memorize his stuff. So I think just learning that and just knowing like what's supposed to be happening is really where that comes from.
We were speaking to Gianna Needkins last week, and she was telling us about Alyssa Thomas and just kind of the versatility that she plays with the IQ. Who's a player that you look at and you're like, hey, their IQ is somebody I really, really admire and like watching?
Yeah, I like to watch Nafisa Collier play. She's someone I like to like somewhere I would like to compare like how I could be to like in like beyond college. So I do like to watch her a lot.
Nice. And Coach Brooks has talked about your leadership a lot and how important it's become for you to become a vocal leader.
Yeah.
How did you find yourself developing your voice both on and off the court?
Yeah, I mean, last year I learned from Georgia, obviously, and then I think just slowly this year, I mean, that's something I knew, a role I knew I'd have to take on. So just thinking about what I learned from her last year and like all the people I've had in the past, and then just stepping outside my comfort zone, really. I'm not naturally like loud or talkative, so I think stepping outside of that and being able to kind of like make the basketball court like somewhere I'm more comfortable with being loud and talkative, even if it's not like that in everyday life.
How much did Coach Brooks and Georgia and some of your other more vocal teammates kind of push you and help you?
Yeah,
Because I know that's like it's easy to say I want to be a more vocal leader. It's really
yeah,
hard to put that into action.
yeah. Georgia, Coach Brooks, they help a lot. They put a lot of confidence in it. And then I think Tiani Keys, she helps a lot too. She's very vocal. So I think learning from her as well. We're kind of trying to fill that role together. So working with her.
You've came into Kentucky last year into SEC basketball, and you had played a little bit in your freshman campaign, but you were still a little bit of an unknown and kind of developing, right? But you've gone from that to being 1A on the scouting report, especially as Kentucky's dealt with some injuries. How have
Mhm.
you kind of adjusted and adapted to that increased focus by opposing defenses, and what are you doing differently to kind of show them something outside of the scouting report?
Yeah, I mean, I just think you always have to be ready. You never know. People are coming from every direction, it seems like. So I think always being ready. Me and Coach Brooks work a lot on like what to do with that. And but then also just like having trust in your teammates, like knowing like finding my open teammate, trusting that they're gonna be able to do something with the ball. They're gonna be in the right spots when their person comes, things like that. That's something we work on a lot too. So I think having that trust in them really helps me be able to do like what I want to do.
And we talk about you being on the Naismith player watch list. We talk about your IQ, your versatility, everything. And it's hard to remember, Clara, that you're still just 20 years old, but you've
Yeah.
still accomplished so much already. What kind of keeps you grounded game in and game out?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to get better. I think every game, every practice, things like that, that's just an opportunity to build and know that not to be like satisfied. Because I mean, you never know what's coming. So I think like I said, just getting better every day. And then not like getting complacent, satisfied, things like that.
So I can't take credit for finding the stat. This stat came from your excellent sports information department. But since the start of last season, you have the most games with at least one made three-pointer among players 6'5" or taller in Division One, which I think is a delightful stat. And Coach Brooks has talked about wanting to get you ready for your pro career by getting you more comfortable. I was watching Unrivaled
Yeah.
earlier this week and watching the Breeze play, and Cam Brink and Dominique Malonga both stepped out and shot multiple threes.
Mhm.
How important do you think having that little bit of a stretch five kind of versatility is to your game and to a potential professional future?
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. I think that's the way that the game is like kind of adapting and like developing. I think, I mean, you watch games, I think everyone at this point is stepping out and shooting threes for the most part. So I think having that just adds a little more, like gives you a little more of an edge for people, for opposing teams, things like that. They can't just like sag off of you and do whatever. So I think it's very important, and that's something that we work on all the time.
How did you kind of first get like, so I know again I was a post player 100 years ago, but like when I would do it, it'd have to be after practice, or I'd have to spend a little bit of time. But getting that comfort level and that expectation, and then the willingness to shoot it in games, how has that kind of evolved and adapted for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like the confidence that like Coach Brooks puts into me. That's something I think I've been shooting threes in my like workouts and stuff since I really got to him. I would think I only took like three freshman year, but like last year, like the summer going into my sophomore year, and then since then we've just been consistently working on that. We shoot him every day, so I think he just tells me, he says not to worry about my percentage and just to shoot it. So that's really where I get that from.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that continued development as your WNBA draft stock continues to climb. You look at class of 2027, you're starting to see your name creep into the first round there. So I got to ask, is the goal to play in the W? And if it is, what are some things that you're working on beyond your outside shooting to give you the best shot at that career?
Yeah, I definitely say that is the goal. I think something I'm working on is probably like consistency, being consistent, game in, game out, kind of having the confidence to like take over and like dominate games on offense, like even if it's not like going in that direction, like being able to just like step up and like be the person that my team can depend on in situations like that. And then just like little things like you said, shot, probably ball handling, being more comfortable with the ball on the floor, and then getting like when I get downhill, being able to like do something with it, not just run full speed at the basket.
And you've mentioned a couple your former teammates, Georgia, of course.
Yeah,
We're looking forward to her taking the court this year after
yeah,
ACL injury. Liz Kitley, too, a couple years ago, too.
yep.
Another player, former teammate of yours, who was in WNBA. Have you been in contact with either of them? Have they offered any advice or any insight about their W journey?
I have a few times. We haven't talked too much about that yet, but they're definitely obviously really great resources that I have for that situation, and for like as I probably next year as I start, it really becomes more of like a reality. So
Before we move to the quick hitters, I'm realizing like what a bad job I did in prepping for this interview. And that, we've talked about your offensive game and all these things, but we mentioned at this tarp, you've just made the midseason watch list as like defensive player of the year. We've barely asked you anything about your defense. What do you think has become one of your most dominant traits, or what makes you such an elite defender other than, obviously your height?
yeah, probably just my ability to block shots. I don't really know where that comes from. But I just have like a natural like instinct for like how they're gonna shoot it, where the ball's gonna go. I think Coach Brooks would like if I didn't try to block so many shots because it gets me in a little bit of trouble sometimes. But I think just being aggressive there, and then I mean I think our team is very defensive oriented, so playing like team defense, knowing if I do something, my teammates are gonna be there to have my back, things like that.
Is there any, I was gonna say, is there a teammate you enjoy blocking a little bit more than anybody else in practice, or somebody, an opponent that you remember having a big block that really fires you up?
Not exactly, but we did find a clip from when I was a freshman and we were playing Georgia Tech. Tony's on Georgia Tech. I did have a good block on her my freshman year.
Fun.
It's
It's
funny.
always good. All right.
That,
Well, go ahead, Michael.
oh no, I was gonna say I was gonna ask about one of your most memorable blocks. We can go ahead with that Tony one, and we can move into the rapid fire quick hitters if that sounds good.
All right. Well, we're gonna start. I mean, you are from Buffalo, so I feel obligated to start with a wings question, right? So I've got
Yeah.
to know: are you a drums or flats person, and are you a sauced or dry?
Flats for sure. And
Flats,
probably more dry.
more dry. Okay, flats and
Yeah.
dry. All right. Strong opinions. I like it. That's the way to start it.
And what would you say is the best post-game meal in Lexington?
Oh, in Lexington, I'm a big fan of Chipotle, but that's kind of basic.
What's the order?
Yeah, what's the order?
Okay, I get a bowl with white rice, chicken, cheese, corn, guac, and sour cream.
Yeah, it's good.
Not mad at it.
It's a
Simple.
solid order. Look, do you think the portion sizes have gone down? Because I think the
Yeah,
portion sizes have gone down significantly. It's just
especially if you order online.
yes. Have you seen the TikTok trend where people like women will order with men's names and then compare them side by side? Like, come on, man, you got to get you're an elite D1 athlete. You know, you need to be hooking you up. You were also a really good softball player back in the
Yeah.
day and ended up choosing basketball. Do you see a world where maybe your journey would have taken you to the diamond instead of the hardwood?
I think so, and I think there was a time in my life where I did think that that was what I favored. I do think that that could have been a journey that I take, but
Would there have been a dream school for softball, you think?
I didn't really get that like think that hard into it. But looking at it now, probably like UCLA playing softball there. Yeah,
Yeah, not a bad place
somewhere warm.
weather-wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this next question, oddly enough, is brought to you by our sponsor today, Chipotle. No, so Claire, what would you say is your hype song before you walk out for tip-off?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not good with music at all, but I like Nicki Minaj.
Okay, we'll
Good.
take
That'll
that.
get you hyped. That'll get you hyped. You also like the Buffalo Bills, and we hear
Yes.
you're a big fan. You got to spend some time out at training camp this summer. Josh Allen can hoop a little bit. You know, I've seen him on social media. I know he's
Yeah,
a pretty good high school hooper. Who's winning a game of horse, you or Josh?
I have to say me.
Yeah,
It's
but
probably
who?
a little out of practice.
Probably true. Who's winning the football accuracy competition?
Yeah, definitely him.
All
But maybe I
right.
could put up a little bit of a fight.
Yeah, put up a fight. Good.
All right, we heard that you and your sister Daisy used to battle in the driveway before you got to be teammates your senior year of high school.
Yeah,
Who's winning one-on-one?
I have to say that I'm winning one-on-one, but she used to just try to foul me as hard as she could growing up.
It's a good
So
She would
strategy.
just try to beat me. Yeah.
score to 11, what's the final score?
I'd have to say 11, like 3. I'll give her
And
a
that's
few.
just because you're being nice, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we talked about your IQ and you kind of talked a little bit about Nathisha Collier. Outside of Fee, is there another WNBA player? If we said you can sit down with this athlete for an hour and just pick their brain, is there somebody you want to sit with?
This one might be basic, but probably Asia Wilson.
Mm.
She's just the greatest.
She is
Sure.
truly the greatest, truly the GOAT.
Yes.
Truly. And Kentucky has produced a lot of players who can make an argument for GOAT in men's and women's. They're synonymous with
Mhm.
basketball royalty. So who's your favorite Wildcat alum hooper, men's or women's?
Oh, I have to say, stick with women's and say either Georgia or Ryan Howard.
Pretty
Two
good
great
ones.
answers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't really go wrong with Kentucky basketball on either the men's or women's team. And you know that Kentucky fan base is really elite, really locked in, and they love their basketball. What's one word you would use to describe the Big Blue Nation fans?
Uh, oh, that's a good question too. Um, I'd have to just say enthusiastic. I think they're just so excited about their programs, and the trends that they're taking.
I think that's a great way to describe them for sure. Clara, I just want to thank you so much for taking some time to join us on the Next Woman Up. It was great to get a chance to speak with you. And I know that you guys have a lot of SEC basketball left to play and hopefully a long run in March Madness as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, and we are back. Clara, what a joy. Thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. And Melissa, we say it after every interview, but damn, I have another player I'm a fan of.
Yeah, yeah, she was awesome. Like we said, just very like it's so fun to watch these players ball like after you talk to them. And you know, like I was saying on the lead in, I think this is somebody that is going to be high on everybody's draft board going into next season. Is going to be Player of the Year candidate, All American candidate, all of those things. Her skill set is just so unique and so special. at her size, and she's just putting together a hell of a run for a Kentucky team that has a chance to make some real noise in March.
They really, really do. That was a huge win that they had up against Vanderbilt. It's going to be a very, very big win for them as far as SEC tournament seeding. So we're looking forward to watching that. We're looking forward to Clara the rest of the season as well as next season as well. Some other teams have a chance to make some noise in the tournament. And next week, I believe, Melissa, we are going to get into that a little bit more, kind of a bracketology preview, if you will. But for this week, we each wanted to highlight one team that we're going to be tracking their performance as they're on the bubble. So who's the team that you have making it right now, and who's the team that you have just missing it?
I think Colorado is another one of those. When I talk about the Big 12 maybe being slightly undervalued, Colorado is one of those teams that definitely fits that bill. They don't lose at home. They've been very, very good on their home court in Big 12 play. They upset TCU. By the time this comes out, it'll have been a little over a week ago, and played really well. They have a massive, massive game against Texas Tech coming up this week and on their home court. If they can win that game, I think it puts them on the right side of the bubble. They also will match up with Utah here before the end of the season and what could ultimately be a March Madness elimination game. And so Colorado's good. They have a great guard, just an unbelievable guard. They play a great style. They're well coached. They struggled a little bit on the road. They don't really necessarily have any massive wins on their preseason resume, but they're a team that if they sneak in, I think could definitely be a team that wins a game. And I think they're worthy of a seed for sure.
Now, I think that's very, very fair. Colorado is impressive. For me, the one team that I have just making in right now are the Fighting Mollies, Arizona State. It's so weird because when we spoke at the beginning of the season, it's like, hey, they're one of the last undefeateds. They're playing so well under Molly Miller, and then all of a sudden, after they lost their first game, they've gone 6-6 since then. So you start to see them kind of trail off with no big, huge wins. Their biggest win of the season was against Oklahoma State during that first run. Their best win was against the aforementioned Colorado Buffalo. So they have a really, really big game coming up against Iowa State this week. I'm going to be keeping an eye on. But later on in 2 weeks, their second to last game against BYU, another team that is fighting on the bubble to make it into March Madness. So I'm going to be watching very, very closely to see what Arizona State is able to do. And as far as my team out, I'm looking at Virginia Tech. Their best win this season is coming against number 38 Virginia. They have a big game coming up against UNC. In that game, I don't want to say it's going to decide everything, but that's going to decide their seeding in the ACC tournament, which could decide their overall resume. I think they need to win that game against UNC if they want any chance to make the tournament. So they are a team that I have my eyes on. We know how well the UNC has been playing. So, I want to keep an eye on Virginia Tech and see if they're able to kind of sneak in. Who's the team that is just missing it for you as of right now?
Before I get to that team, I want to say something about Molly Miller. This will be the last year, for as long as she's at Arizona State, that Arizona State will be a bubble team. She
Love
is
that.
a problem in the Big
Hmm.
12. Her game plan against TCU was so impressive. And when she is able to recruit and have the athletes to execute it for a full 40 minutes, that is a good program. I have been so impressed with her making the leap from GCU. She's just a really, really good basketball coach and has the personality that players want to play for. And like I said, I think she's going to be a real problem in the Big 12. And I think that team will be competing for a Big 12 championship sooner rather than later. And I hate it, but I love it. It's great for the game. But I'm selfish. I want to win. Another reason this my last team out that I want desperately to be in is also because I'm selfish, and that's because I am rooting so hard for Maggie Dugan and the Richmond Spiders. I want so badly for this young woman who stayed at a mid-major her entire career, who could have left, who talked with us on the show, one of our first guests, about why she stayed and why it was so important for her to cement her legacy, scored her 2000th point earlier this week in a game that they won, an important game for them and when it comes to A10 tournament seeding. But I want to see player. I have no problem with the transfer portal. I have no problem with NIL. But when a player commits and stays for the right reasons too, I want to see that player rewarded. And Maggie Dugan 100% deserves to go out in March. She's a player that I want to see on that biggest stage, and she's played her best games in the brightest lights. So Richmond, if the A10 is a one bid league, which it may well be, then Richmond is going to have to win the tournament because they are chasing that Rhode Island team that we talked about a couple of weeks ago too. I think that they should be a two-bid league. And again, that might just be because I'm super homerific for Maggie Dugan. And I have no problem with that, with admitting that. But Rhode Island's legit. They're for real. They should be in the tournament, no matter if they win the A10 tournament or not. But Richmond is also a team that's proven it in the past that they can win games in March. And so I would love for both of those teams to get a bid. Right now, it looks like Richmond's going to be on the outside looking in unless they win their A10 tournament.
Yeah, and Maggie in that interview with us told us how she kind of turns it up in the biggest stages when the lights are the brightest, and she'll have a chance on February 24th whenever Richmond and Rhode Island play against each other. So that is going to be must-watch hoops if you're able to get some A10 action. And while this upcoming week we don't have any A10 games highlighted, we still have a huge slate. And I teased
Yeah.
at the beginning, but this is Ole Miss week, and I'm just going to get right into it because Ole
Tony
Miss.
McMahon, girl, turn it on. It's time.
Right. And yeah, she's going to have to because they are going through the ringer this week. They play 3 games. Listen to the schedule. They play Tennessee, who we know struggling a little bit, still very tough game. Then they have to play LSU. And then they have to go to South Carolina and play South Carolina. So if you are Ole Miss right now, what is your goal ending this week? Are you hoping to go 2-1? You're hoping to go 3-0, but do you consider a success if you end up going 2-1 with that schedule?
I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm going to turn on my coach press conference speech. If you are in that program, you cannot get caught looking ahead, because if you get caught looking ahead, 0-3 is definitely a possibility. Look, you get 2 of those games at home. Tennessee is a game you should win. You're not guaranteed to win, but it's a game you should win. And somebody could pretty much put Tennessee on the mat now and take them out. Like, as hard as they fought back against Texas, they did lose that game. And you can really not end their season. They're still going to be in the tournament, but you can really put them down. And that's how you have to look at it. You get LSU, at home as well. That LSU team is playing really good basketball, but they're licking their wounds a little bit too. I don't think anybody outside of Ole Miss thinks they're going to win at South Carolina. So 2 wins is absolutely the goal and the hope. If you go 1-2, but you lose a close one at home to LSU, do you feel good about it? Probably not. I think you're thinking, if you're looking big picture, you're thinking we have to defend home court and then hope that we go and we can show we can play a little bit with South Carolina here, towards the end of the regular season. So I think 1-2 is probably their most realistic scenario because LSU is playing very well. But I don't think 2-1 is out of the realm of possibility. But I would not want to be the SID for Ole Miss this week. I tell you, that's going to be, you're going to have some tough recaps potentially to write, or maybe some really good ones.
And Coach Yo, her defensive philosophy is disrupt. And that's what they're going to hope to do,
Yeah.
is just get out there, dictate, and disrupt. So we'll see what they're able to do. But what are a couple games that stand out to you this week, Melissa? I know there's a Big 12 game you have circling.
Yeah. Baylor, Texas Tech is going to be huge when you look at the race for the Big 12 regular season title, which TCU won a season ago. You've got TCU in control right now. They've got the sweep over West Virginia. They're 1 win up on Baylor, but Texas Tech beat TCU, and you won't get a rematch between those 2 teams. And so that Baylor Texas Tech game becomes massive. The Bears and the Frogs will finish it on the regular season, be the finale once again, like they were a year ago, this time in Fort Worth. And so that game has major title implications. Texas Tech has been really good and really impressive. And I thought they were a little bit fluky early on. We were talking about undefeated teams, but I've been so impressed by how they've kind of held the line. And Krista Gerlich has done a great job. Bailey Maupin's been awesome. Snuda has been unbelievable. I mean, should be probably 6th man of the year in women's college basketball this year for what she's doing as a bench contributor. I mean, she's basically a starter at this point, but that's going to be a massive, massive game for both those programs with major title implications on the line.
Yeah, and it's going to be games that we're going to be tuned into. Some other ones we will look at: Washington versus UCLA, Michigan, Iowa, Kentucky, and Vandy, as we discussed as well. One team that we don't have circled on our calendar for what's coming up, because they are 2 games that they should be winning, and that is the North Carolina Tar Heels. They take on Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh. Hey, Michael, why are you talking about them? Those are winnable games. Hey, yeah, you're right. They are. Even though I said Virginia Tech is on the bubble right now, they have to beat UNC, but looking to stand in their way is the Tar Heels, as well as Nyla Harris. She is our guest for next week. She was an absolute blast. She, you all will hear it, but she wants to go into broadcast journalism after she's done with her basketball career. And Melissa, I'll tell you what, she had me ready to run through a damn wall with her monologue that she gave us. I can't wait for everybody to hear it.
Everybody has been great that's come on the show with us. But like subjectively, Nyla Harris and Talia Scott, probably the most like fun, engaging. They're the 2 that most seem to enjoy being on camera and having a mic in their hands for sure. She was a blast. She was awesome to talk to. Just so effervescent and so much joy. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy hearing from her. Michael, I think that's all we got for today. Great episode. Hope everybody enjoys it. Thank you so much to Clara Strack for joining us. Michael, thanks for toughing it out on a tough day for you. We look forward to you guys tuning in next week.